The first reason, Aries, that you're special as you claim to be is you are the only sign in the zodiac which can be possessed by a singularity in its whole entirety without being fractioned or halved. You're the only one that could take on a singularity 100% and still be singularity 100%. The rest of the signs can take on a singularity 100% and they'll have another 100%, which is the feminine or masculine, which means when you take on a singularity, Aries, it's feminine and masculine. It's a singularity. There's not two of it. The feminine and masculine and your singularity become one and the same. There's no difference. And because you're one, that's why. And understand that you're the only sign that can do it, Aries. To you, it's not special. It's just you think there's nothing special about it. Can everyone else do it? No, they can't. They cannot do it. And they don't want you to do it because they can't do it. They'll expect you to take only your half. And if you want to take only her half, because you're only one, they'll expect you to take either your half and not her half, or her half and not your half. And you don't want to be halved. You're going to claim to be whole. And when you take her because you are him, they'll say, wait a minute, you can't take her like you own her. Well, my singularity is a singularity, whether it's him or her. And so Aries, the dispute you have is valid. Your anger is valid. Your dispositions are valid. Your troubles are valid. Your conflicts are valid. Aries, what you're mad about and angry about and frustrated about is valid, valid, valid. And your validity is valid. The fact that you're angry and mad is a good reason to know that you are valid. But the reality is Aries, it doesn't mean that you're going to be doing the correct thing or even being right just because you're valid. You have a gripe that is valid, and nobody can say it's not, Aries. Nobody can say it's not, and they don't have any understanding, Aries, at all. That's the first reason, Aries, that you can take on the spirit of God as God takes it on, and all the other signs have to take on the spirit of God with more than one thing. God does not take on the spirit, Aries, of himself with more than one thing. He'll get into everything as just one thing and not more than one thing. So God, the spirit of God, Aries, gets into all things and it becomes all things, but it's only one and not two. So how can the spirit of God be only one and not two and getting into all things? So then it is two. It's many twos. It's millions of twos. It's in fact all of them. So how can it get in? Because it gets in as a singularity. God's spirit possesses all, and then it gets into it because it possesses the spirit of the singularity is going to get into other plural. So singularity gets into plural, Aries. It's supposed to. Do you know that the first one gets in the same house with the second one? It's called the singularity with together, and when there's more than one, it's called plural because they are together. One gets in the other, and it becomes one and the other. Aries, you're one or the other, not one and the other. Aries, which one do you want to be, one or the other? You'll say, I'll be the one. Then you can't be the other. That's fine. You don't want to be the other. But then I'll say, Aries, they're going to blame you because you're not the other. You'll say, but I can only be one, right? Yeah, but it'll be your fault and you're bad. So shame on you, Aries. Well, I thought I could only do one thing. You only can. Well, then how are you going to blame me because I can't be the other if I'm the one? Well, we're going to say you could be just the other and you don't need to be the one. Okay, is that all right? Well, sure. We want you just to be the other. Don't be the one, Aries. Get rid of your God spirit of power and take the other. And when you do take the other, because you'll lose your singularity, you'll be a singularity, not a plural that can be singular. It takes the achievement of a plurality to become singular again and be able to do it. And you won't be able to be singular if you take the plurality because you'll only be halved. And because in a plurality, the feminine and masculine are different to you, since they're the same in the one, they'll be different in the two, and therefore you won't be able to take them together since you're not in the singularity anymore. Aries, it's very confusing. I want you to know that you need to stand up and be counted and start to look in the mirror and say you're important and realize that no matter what you think, you hate yourself. Sure, you'll hate yourself because you're not trying to hate other people. And if you want to hate other people, then you won't hate yourself, Aries. But for you, you'll decide, do I hate them or I hate me? And because you're good, Aries, you'll hate yourself, and you won't even know how good you are, that you're not going to hate them and blame them, because you're actually not wrong. So you're hating yourself instead. Aries, you don't even know that you're so good, that you've become so good, Aries. Such a great soul you are. Aries, you don't even know what you've done in your suicidal tendency to refuse to attack others, and you will then attack yourself as a condition. And you won't attack others because you don't even know that you've made the condition that you agreed to punish yourself instead of the rest of the world for what they did to you or won't let you do. Your gripe is valid, Aries. And understand, now that you know, take your importance back, take your freaking self gumption back, take your power back, and then don't be in conflict with it, Aries, because you need to know you can't take your power back if you're going to choose to be in conflict with it, because it'll be removed from you for being in conflict with it by choice. Aries, that's what happened in the beginning, and what happened to you is you chose to be in conflict by engaging in warfare and conflict on purpose, with a purpose, and ultimately because you work for Zeus, your daddy, God, he not only let you do it, but he trained you and showed you how to do it, and he even paid you to do it, and rewarded you for doing it, and you become the greatest god of war, Aries, under your dad Zeus. And then guess what? Then you agree to attack and fight the Trojan in the Trojan War. And you don't know the difference between the Trojans and the Greeks, Aries. You don't know the difference between the Trojans and the Greeks. But the rest of the Greeks are not the Trojans, and the Trojans are not the Greeks. And Aries, your spirit is both Trojans and Greeks, and there's no difference between the feminine and masculine, or the goddess and the god. To you, the singularity goddess and the goddess it happens to be feminine, and in the plural it's different, Aries. But in the Aries, this is way confusing, but understand it's way technical, and it's a science, the astrology I'm talking about. Aries, be important right now. Start right now.